All right, so just earlier we saw the Prime Minister of Canada, not the governor, the Prime Minister talking on CNN randomly. Here's that clip.
President-elect Trump has been needling you a bit, calling you Governor Trudeau, talking about making Canada the 51st state. Did you have any interaction with him today?
No, not today, but that's not going to happen. Canadians are incredibly proud of being Canadian. One of the ways we define ourselves most easily is, well, we're not American. There is such a depth of pride that that's not actually an issue. What I think is happening in this is President Trump, who's a very skillful negotiator, is getting people to be somewhat distracted by that conversation, to take away from the conversation around 25% tariffs on oil and gas and electricity and steel and aluminum and lumber and concrete, and everything the American consumers buy from Canada is suddenly going to get a lot more expensive if he moves forward on these tariffs. And that's something that I think we need to be focusing on a little bit more.
And so, Adam, I wanted to bring you on because, first off, I think it's great that we're talking to each other. You know, we gotta, the liberal voices got to stick together, baby. So I'm so grateful you're on the channel with me. This is like our multiverse of madness. It's like two universes colliding. So thanks for joining. But I wanted to get your take on this. I have my own thoughts about what Trump is doing and Canada's response. But how do you think the Prime Minister was doing there?
Yeah, we're like best bros behind the scenes, so we should do this more often. Thanks for having me. But I think Prime Minister Trudeau called it out perfectly. Ben Meiselas has been saying this is a weapon of mass distraction because that's what Donald Trump is good at. I mean, if he's good at one thing, it's going to be manipulating the media and distracting people from what's actually going on. So I'm assuming over the next few months, as people begin to realize prices aren't going to go down, actually exactly the opposite, as they realize that the Russia-Ukraine war is not going to be ended in 24 hours, then Trump needs something to distract people with, and it's going to be this weird imperialist rhetoric that he's using. I also think there's a little piece of him, a big piece of him that is so egotistical that he thinks this is his chance to put his name on the short list of presidents that have helped America expand. Territory-wise. Yeah, so he thinks this is going to enhance his legacy. It's also a distraction. And I also think he's just a little bit mad, you know?
Yeah, so I totally agree with you. I do think it's a distraction, but are you aware of like how Russia, the propaganda of Russia, and what led up to the Ukraine war?
Fill me in.
So it was very similar to this, actually. Where I'm going to show you this clip, actually.
Yeah.
Because the fact that they don't want to become part of America makes me want to make them.
So that literally was how Russia was talking before they invaded Ukraine. So I agree. This is a distraction. I'm not saying Donald Trump's going to, send the military into, I don't even know, what is a province in Canada? Ottawa? Is that a province? Or wherever. Sorry, I don't know my geography in Canada. Sorry to all Canadians watching. But I do think that between that, Greenland, and the Panama Canal, there might be something there. And I think he was not expecting Republicans to be as receptive as they have been to his insanity. I do think he was really just trolling at first, especially with Canada. I do know that Greenland was something that he had been talking about for 5 years, but I do think Canada was a troll. But I do wonder if this is, because you're right. There's no way to get prices down. Unfortunately, I wish Democrats would have messaged this better rather than saying we can change the prices back. The way inflation works is when prices go up, they don't go back down. That's how inflation works. We haven't experienced inflation, I think, in like 40 years as a country, really like extreme inflation. So I don't think many people alive today are used to it or have a good memory of it, but prices don't go down. So Donald Trump isn't going to be able to do anything about it. And I do think that one of the ways to keep public quiet from getting mad at the person in charge is by making them feel like they're all part of a team, and I think how you do that is by maybe potentially, invading a country, which sounds insane to say.
Yeah, and dude, that Jesse Waters clip kind of reminded me of, it's just like rapey in a bit. He's saying, imagine switching that with a woman. The fact that the woman didn't want me made me want her more, or whatever the hell. It's just the way that he worded that is incredibly odd. But even if we take a step back, this just creates the permission structure and has America lose the moral high ground when we try to call out countries like Russia for invading Ukraine, when we try to call out countries like China, or when we say, Xi Jinping, you can't just invade your next door neighbor, he's going to be like, look who's talking. You guys have a POTUS, or president-elect at least, that is talking openly about invading our next door neighbor, or is at least posturing about using military and economic coercion. He's also postured towards Mexico, the Panama Canal, et cetera, et cetera. And I actually liked how Claudia Sheinbaum shot back and was like, hey, what did she say? How about Mexicana Americana or something like that? She's like, this sounds pretty beautiful. I think you got to troll him back. The Democratic Party, just a side note, has kind of lost its punch over the last
let's
few
go
years.
there. Let's go there. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, dude, Donald Trump will bully the hell out of us, and every single time we're just equally as surprised. Like, oh, this guy's a bully? I didn't realize. This guy's a bully? I didn't realize. But it comes to a point where we have to troll back. We have to punch back. So when Claudia Sheinbaum, the president over in Mexico, is shredding Donald Trump, I find that hilarious. But even if you think about what's going on there, Trump is using escalatory rhetoric towards our neighbors, and our neighbors are escalating back. So the party that over the past few years has been screaming and crying about World War III, even though President Biden has kept a steady hand with the war in Russia, Ukraine, they're now inching us towards World War III, and they're escalating tensions across the globe. Meanwhile, Biden kept such a steady hand with Russian escalation. He probably could have gone a little bit harder, I think, on Russia and helped Ukraine even more. But if we're going to go towards World War III, it's the orange guy that's going to do it.
It is the orange guy who's going to do it, and it seems like I just don't understand the hypocrisy of all of this. And to your point of Democrats not fighting back, I do wish, I don't know if you saw what Chuck Schumer wrote in a statement yesterday, but it was like me beside myself, where it was like, renaming the Gulf of Mexico is a zany idea, and I would support it if we could lower costs. And it's like, that's not how we're going to be able to win this war.
Yeah, I think Chuck Schumer is kind of overcorrecting. I know some Democrats in Congress have been saying, hey, we need to at least listen, Donald, like hear him out. We need to at least listen to what Donald Trump's saying. And, if he was proposing a healthcare plan beyond just concepts, then yes, we could listen, we could hear him out and hear what his healthcare plan is, but he has no healthcare plan. He has no economic plan. His immigration plan is quite dystopian. So when that's all he's presenting, we shouldn't hear him out. It's kind of just been pissing me off over the past few days because Republicans are straight up gaslighting us. Do you remember leading up to the election and after the election, they were kicking and screaming that we were implying that they were fascists or that there was a fascistic strain to MAGA? Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, these people were saying, you lost because you called us fascist. You took it too far. Maybe you shouldn't have said Trump was kind of like Hitler. And then you give it a month or two, and Trump is literally repeating the same exact territorial ambitions. He is literally using the same fascist rhetoric. So they gaslit us. They straight up gaslit us. And now I've had to watch Ben Shapiro smugly laugh and say, oh, we're just trolling you and owning the libs, while he's using fascistic rhetoric. Number one, it's gaslighting. Number two, it kind of pisses me off, right?
I mean, that's the thing, is that is the crux of it. This is fascist rhetoric. Invading another country, saying that Canada is going to be the 51st state. This is an imperialist point of view. And by the way, one that is against our allies. They're not even saying like, let's try to, I don't even know. Like, I don't think we should be invading countries personally at all. I do think that, and it's really interesting. I know you posted this meme on your Instagram story. I actually posted the same one on my Blue Sky account, but they were so against defending Ukraine. They were so against defending Ukraine, which just makes me sad and pissed. But they're so into invading Canada.
They have, okay, so that I have 2 points to that. Number one, they have no guiding principles other than trolling the libs. And in trolling the libs, they end up using more and more fascistic rhetoric. But on top of that, have you ever noticed how Trump is coincidentally very, very nice to a lot of our enemies? So he'll write love letters to Xi Jinping. He loves Kim Jong-un. When's the last time he's called Vladimir Putin a dumb dictator? Like, why don't you use some strongman rhetoric about Vladimir Putin? Why is it always Justin Trudeau or Gavin Newsom? Does Trump even have a nickname for Putin the same way that he has for Gavin Newsom?
No, that's such a good point.
All of these people. So he always is posturing towards our allies, our next door neighbors. Denmark is one of the founding members of NATO, for example, and Greenland is, of course, a part of Denmark, and Trump is posturing towards one of the founding members. I was just talking about this in a video, but after World War II, which was the bloodiest conflict in human history, A lot of world leaders came together to make sure the world never devolved into such chaos ever again. And they created NATO out of that, right? And then since then, we haven't had an entire global war. Yes, we had Vietnam and Middle Eastern wars, but the world has not devolved into such chaos since World War II. And now Trump is trying to threaten one of the founding members of NATO, which erodes the entire infrastructure that we've spent the past 8 decades building up. It erodes our alliances and it makes America less credible on the global stage.
Yes, and the reason why I wanted to share that clip is because the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada is because, to me, it's just insane. Like, I think we're so past this point, we sometimes got to slow it down. It is insane that the Prime Minister of Canada is on a national cable news network defending his country, saying Canadians don't want to be Americans. Like, can we just slow it down for a second and just point out that's nuts? It's a nuts thing that he has to do it. He has to say it. And that also, we are also, as a country, numb to it.
Yeah, the situation that we're in is mind-boggling. And I think Trudeau did a great thing by pointing out that it's a distraction. We all need to stay on message over the next 4 years. And that's why I'm glad we're doing videos like this. Let's definitely do more of them. We need to stay on message and just say that they're going to keep trying to distract us. As things get worse, as prices get higher, Trump is going to use more and more out there rhetoric. But even despite it being a distraction, there's definitely a sliver of Trump that actually thinks he can get this done. There's a sliver of Trump that thinks, again, that his name will go on the small list of presidents of expanded U.S. territory, because we know that he thinks of himself as this master negotiator who can get anything done if he gains enough leverage. So I like what Trudeau was saying there. Hey, number one, we have no interest. Number two, we have a very proud population. I mean, Canadians love being a part of Canada. And also, it's a distraction. Don't get distracted. And I know a lot of people have said the same thing. He's a weapon of mass distraction rather than somebody who's actually able to get stuff done. And it reminds me, Don Jr. went to Greenland over the past week, and we found out that he hired homeless people. They hired homeless people off the street and gave them MAGA hats so that they pretended like, hey, the population of Greenland is incredibly excited to become a part of the U.S. They're even all MAGA. And that's a perfect microcosm of the MAGA style of distraction, deception over actual fundamentals. If you actually were confident in your plan and you thought you could get this done, you wouldn't have to hire people or distract or lie.
Yeah, but I mean, you're absolutely right. That's all they do. It's all they do. They distract, they lie, and they're unable to they won't get anything done, I don't think. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, nothing good. And like I said at the beginning, if Trump does come out with a healthcare plan beyond concepts, then Chuck Schumer can hop on and be like, hey, maybe we should talk about this. But we know that's not going to happen. They're going to try to strip pre-existing conditions. And I'm hoping that Democrats have the balls to push back, and not just institutionally. We've pushed back institutionally a lot, but also messaging. Like, I want to see.
We have to get better at messaging. We have to get better at messaging.
I don't know how to say this in a way that doesn't sound like we just need to be a little bit meaner. Do you know what I mean? We need to be a tiny bit mean.
Cutting.
Not like
cutting.
Yeah. Yeah. Assertive. We need to have an, not that we need to be bullies. I would never say that we need to be bullies. We're all going to always be defending the core tenets of liberalism, but we can't let Trump repeatedly punch us in the face and think that he's just going to eventually learn his lesson on his own. So maybe not mean, but cutting. And we need to have a little bit of a punch.
So looking ahead, he's going to be inaugurated in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. What are you looking out for this next year?
Over this next year, I'm looking out for, on the Trump side, just a lot of distraction, a lot of messy, incoherent policy. We saw the Speaker of the House, the speakership vote that happened about a week ago, almost fell through on the first round because they have such a slim margin. So we're going to have to look for cracks within the Republican Party and their coalition that on our side we can exploit. We can exploit to make sure that MAGA, that the darkest urges of MAGA aren't acted upon in Congress, since they have 2 chambers. If we can just make it through these first 2 years, which I'm confident we will, and we can get to the midterms and push back there in the voting booth, I think that will be good. And the way that we make it through these next 2 years is by relentlessly pushing back on the disinformation. Elon Musk is a constant fire hose, just carpet bombing the informational landscape with lies, lies, lies. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with. If I wanted to make a video for every lie that Elon Musk told on a daily basis, my videos, I'd be posting like 20 videos a day. So it's hard to keep up with every single lie. But what we can do is match their their volume, create our own media ecosystem, which is what we're all working on every single day, and just exploit the divisions within the Republican Party. And with that, we can rebuild our coalition and show people that the Republicans are just out of touch and they are reckless, and that you can't roll the die and basically elect this crazy man and think that everything is going to turn out okay.
I think that's right. And I think my one thing to impart on people is that don't become a nihilist. Like, it's bad. It can always be worse, but can also get better. You know, America is an interesting country in that it takes a long and hard road for us to learn a lesson, but we do learn the lesson. And so it requires each and every one of us to make sure that we're not giving up, that we're paying attention, and that we're also making sure that we are available to be a check on Trump and the MAGA base. Because like you said, they are divided. They're held together by the slimmest majority, and they barely all believe in the same thing. And that is something that we can take advantage of, but we can only take advantage of it if we believe that change is possible. I believe that change is possible, but nihilism is just giving up. And so we can't give up, because there is a better America within this country. We just have to help it grow.
Yeah, you know, American institutions are surprisingly resilient. We made it through a civil war. We made it through a lot. I think we can make it through this. And I agree, the nihilism sometimes scares me, because when I see people in my comment section saying, oh, Adam, it's cute for you to think that we'll even have elections in 4 years, I think that's a way of almost obeying in advance. You're already conceding that we might as well not even try. We might as well not even push back. We might as well not even talk about the future elections, because they think everything is already lost when Trump hasn't even gotten into office. Yes, we have a lot of work to do to push back, but if you obey in advance and say that we've already lost everything, then you're just giving up before the fight's even fully started. So yeah.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for joining, Adam. This is awesome.
Thanks for having me, man. Let's do it again. That was a great
Yeah.
vibe. I liked it.
Yeah, thanks.